as I thought. You were trying to override the launch controls for the quantum torpedoes.
I was hoping to gain control of the phasers as well. I just hadn't got around to it yet.
Hello there, welcome back to the channel. This is Nerdworld Empire. And just to get it out of the way to start off with, genocide is a bad thing. It is always a bad thing, no matter how justified someone feels wiping out an alien civilization, no matter how horrifically inhuman they are, is always bad. Wiping out any culture, population or society for whatever reason you feel is necessary is wrong. There is always a better way. This is a subject that has been tackled in Star Trek multiple times. And in the long history of the Federation and the Milky Way galaxy, it has been visited upon many civilizations. An ancient example would be the Iconians. Others more recently have been absorbed or destroyed by the Borg, basically still resulting in genocide even if they are assimilated, as it is the true death of their culture. But in this instance, we're looking at a specific instance of it. One that would actually have been beneficial to the Federation if it would have been successful. Reasons why it wouldn't be, and why it was a dumb idea to even attempt it, and that was Garek's attempt to destroy the Changelings, the leaders of the Dominion, using the admittedly formidable arsenal of weapons carried aboard the USS Defiant during an excursion to the homeworld of the Changelings at the time. Garek's first mistake, and there are a list of them here, was, as you just saw, in attempting to gain control illicitly of the ship's weapons systems, which would have inevitably led to a war between the Federation and the Dominion, as it was a Federation ship firing, and I highly doubt the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar and anyone else would have been particularly interested to know that it was actually a Cardassian that did this, not Starfleet. The destruction of the Changelings would have inevitably led to war. His first mistake here was he allowed himself to trip multiple security protocols that alerted the ship's chief of security and other personnel to something being a little amiss, allowing them to determine that someone was tampering with the systems, resulting in a detachment going and intercepting his plans. His attempts to rationalize it were not rational.
Don't you see? We have an opportunity here, a chance to end the Dominion threat once and for all. We have enough firepower on this ship to turn that planet into a smoking cinder.
To put a little backstory and context here, Garek had come along on this mission in order to determine what had happened to the many Cardassians, particularly Inab Brentane, the former head of the Obsidian Order and, spoilers, father of Elan Garek. What had happened to them after their initial failed attempt to destroy the Changelings a little earlier, resulting in many Romulan and Cardassian ships being destroyed, supposedly with all hands lost. He believed that some of them must have survived. Again, spoilers, he was correct about this assertion. He was told by the Changelings that none of them had been taken prisoner and they'd all been killed for their attempts to wipe out the Changelings. The Changelings themselves, it should be pointed out, were also guilty of mass genocide upon many different civilizations. Garek didn't take this news particularly well and decided to basically repeat the mistakes of the Cardassians and Romulans that had come before him and try to do it again.
Personally, I think that would be a very good thing.
And what about Odo? And Captain Sisko and Dr. Bashir?
They'll die. And once the Jem'Hadar ships realize what we're doing, so will we. But what are our lives compared to saving the entire Alpha Quadrant?
So here we have the first rationalization. A supposedly noble goal, save the Alpha Quadrant from the wicked Dominion. But is that really what he would have been doing, or was he just simply out for revenge? Let you decide that one. But you can see from even Worf's outrage, what's really happening here is Garek is trying to provoke what would be a mass genocide on both sides. Ultimately, this would result in the death of the Changelings, the Jem'Hadar, probably the Vorta, and possibly even the massive destruction of many races in the Alpha Quadrant, and even the fall of Bajor if someone decided to collapse the wormhole. He was also aware that the response of the Jem'Hadar would result in the destruction of the USS Defiant pretty promptly. Now, going back to the Defiant, let's look at that. We know that a fleet of Romulan and Cardassian ships firing at a planet were able to destroy 30% of the planet's surface. We don't know exactly how thoroughly, but they were able to do it pretty quickly from orbit when they attacked the original Changeling's homeworld. The Defiant, although a well-armed ship, is nowhere near as heavily armed as even a single Romulan warbird. So, I'm dubious to determine how much damage that ship could do, even if no one was expecting it, to the planet quickly enough. Now remember, the changelings are all over the planet like a gigantic ocean. So what exactly is the Defiant going to do? As an evaluation of his actual plan, it was flawed, not only because, again, genocide is a bad idea, but also because he had no hope of success. The Defiant would have been successful in killing many changelings, yes, but it would not have wiped out the entire species before the Jem'Hadar or whatever orbital or planetary defenses were able to open fire, or hell, even some kind of planetary shield we were unaware of was able to be raised. That's assuming the Dominion wouldn't detect the activation of the weapon systems and put something in the path of the Defiant before it was able to do it. Not to mention again the crew of the Defiant being able to gain control of the ship, fighting him all the time to prevent him from firing at the surface, and we know that a Starfleet officer would rather destroy their ship than commit an act of genocide, which is likely what Sisko or Worf or others would have likely done in this situation if the need for it arose. Garek was also only attempting to seize control of the weapon systems, not the propulsion system, which again, bit of a flaw. He's got to hit the entire planet. We know that the Defiant is not truly a planet-killing weapons platform, so again there's a major flaw there in his tactic. Basically, the whole thing was flawed. And as again a side note, we need to take into consideration the fact that it is very unlikely that all the changelings were on this planet. Let's use another example. If you were to destroy Earth, Earth has many colonies. Forgetting Mars alone, which by the 24th century has billions of people living on it, the moon would likely be destroyed with its hundreds of millions of people living on it. But what about the Vega colony, the Proxima colony, all the Maquis colonies? There are literally tens of, if not hundreds of millions, even potentially billions of humans not living on Earth by the 24th century. Destroying Earth would not wipe out the human race. It would certainly hurt it, definitely, but it would not destroy it. The same thing can easily be said of the changelings. We know there were changeling infiltrators in the Alpha Quadrant. There were likely changelings overseeing various Dominion operations all over the Gamma Quadrant, likely thousands, again if not millions of them, not on their planet. And what about the 100 or so infant changelings that were sent out? We know Odo returned and a couple of others turned up, but where are all the rest? The Dominion would not be destroyed by this action, so even as a battle tactic, it doesn't work. All it would do is incite your enemy, turn your allies against you, create new enemies, and open up doors to a dark place that realistically no one wants to go and is very hard to come back from, likely resulting in centuries if not millennia of hardship and difficulty in your interspecies relations with other cultures. Now unless you're a race like Romulans or Borg, who don't really give a toss about this, it's going to be difficult for Cardassia and or humanity to come back from such an action, especially if they're stomped under the jackboots of the Dominion. So in conclusion, Garek's strategy here was flawed. He was emulating a tactic utilized only a couple of years earlier by his own people in the Romulans, which failed. A tactic that had been used by other powers, including the Federation before, and usually failed, especially when used on a mass scale. He had no chance of actually destroying all the changelings, forgetting the fact that they weren't all on the planet. He never was going to be able to lay siege to the entire planet before the Defiant was destroyed. It would start a war that was not yet capable of being fought by the Alpha Quadrant powers and would have resulted in a very angry Dominion unleashing a force against them which it might not have previously levied as a result of this singular action, which would have led in his little revenge crusade to the very thing he was perhaps hoping to avoid according to his spiel, saving the Alpha Quadrant. But that's my takeaway from this scene. Let me know yours in the comments below. Was Garek right? Was he like Gul Dukat and he did nothing wrong? I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching and bye bye.